Today, we're going to talk about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and how you can capitalize on the biggest wealth transfer in the world. Hi, my name is Troy Landwehr, and so many people, my background is retirement planning. And what's interesting is I know so many people that do financial planning, retirement planning, because that's my background. And almost all of them don't know anything about Bitcoin. Very, very few. I have one of the experts in the entire world in Bitcoin right now, to the point where there's his, where is he? Hey, he left. I think where did he go? No. But
love to meet him.
Here's what I'm telling you. This guy knows everything about cryptocurrency. And one of his best friends is actually the face of Bitcoin. He's the face of Bitcoin.
Some would say, yeah.
So we're gonna get into that. We're gonna talk about that. But today we're gonna get right into what Bitcoin is and how and why you should capitalize on Bitcoin. So this is for you. So let's talk to Crypto Craig right now. Craig, so many people. Let's dumb it down for the beginners, okay?
Yeah,
and I know there's some advanced people, and we'll get into some advanced areas, but I'm going to tell you guys, this is something you need to learn. Everybody has to learn this, in my opinion, okay? It's very important. So what is Bitcoin? What is cryptocurrency? And what is blockchain? I'm going to give you the mic. That's a lot.
That's all three.
Let's
right
give
there.
you some fire, man.
Yeah,
Here we go. What's Bitcoin?
Well, first off, thank you for having me. And I appreciate you having me on your platform here to talk about this stuff. And people, I've been doing a lot of calls lately because the Bitcoin price is way up. And people are like, oh my God, I don't want to waste your time with the what is Bitcoin. I'm like, dude, this is my favorite thing in the world to talk about. Like, don't worry. I love talking about this all day. So it's total passion of mine. I'm obsessed with crypto and Bitcoin. So I don't know if I'm an expert. I just am so obsessed that, I love sharing it with people. So I think the easiest thing to do would be to tell you how I heard about it and like the journey that I went on. And then we'll get into what is this and kind of break it down. We'll dumb it down for you guys. And then we'll get into what the heck is happening in the world right now, because I think it fits into the world picture in a big way. And it's, it creates an opportunity for everybody that's watching this or that's heard about it. Is not quite sure what to do. So I was actually at a wine and cheese party like 6 years ago. And my buddy was like trying to sell me on the wine and cheese. And I was like, not that interested, but he's like, well, I did make money in Bitcoin last year. I'm like, well, what is that? And so I went home and that's all I needed to hear, like bit and then coin, like it sounded cool. Is some digital currency. That's all I heard. And so I went home and 40 hours into YouTube later, I'm calling my buddy back. I'm like, dude, this is going to change the world. Like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And it sounds like a scam or something like made up when you first hear about it. It sounds like a Harry Potter movie, like meets the Matrix, like some guy that nobody knows who the founder is, created this mythical online currency that all of a sudden is worth, $45,000+ Like, it sounds like a made up story. I get that. And so for me, I didn't see it like that. I got it right away. Most people have a story. They heard about Bitcoin, but didn't think it was real. And then 5 years later, they got involved. The second I heard about it, I was like, I'm in, I wanted to figure it out. So I was banking and bartending at the time. And so I took some extra bartending money and started investing it. And I was good, but I wasn't that good. I just, I had great timing. And then I learned that there was more than just Bitcoin. There was other cryptocurrencies and stuff as well. And they all kind of like served a slightly different purpose. And so I started investing and did really, really well. I, lost most of that money as I, kind of went through some stuff, which I'll explain, but I learned a ton along the way and kind of got into the space of crypto. I just knew it was a space I wanted to be in because of how big it was going to be. And that's kind of like how I got started and got into this space. But I'd say the journey changes your story. Like at first, if you asked me, like after my 40 hours of YouTube videos, what is Bitcoin? I would be like, well, it's the way it works is with the payments and the network and like way too much. But now that I've been in Bitcoin for like 5-6 years and studied basically every single day about trading and things like that, I tell people it's digital gold. So in short, what is Bitcoin? It is digital gold. Why? Because it's got a lot of the same properties as gold. Why do people buy gold? Is really as like a hedge against the US dollar. They think, okay, the dollar, might not do that well. And as far as strength of the stock market might not do that well coming up. How do I diversify my portfolio to give me something, outside of the dollar? So they typically turn to precious metals or gold or silver. Why? Because there's not finite, but there's a scarce amount of gold in the world. So as the demand increases for this gold and there's only so much of it, the price is supposed to increase as well. That's just like simple supply and demand stuff. People use gold for that. So I saw this as digital gold, but it's better because it's cheaper to send. It's cheaper to store. Most people that have gold would have a vault or a safe or something like that. And then most importantly is it's finite. So with gold, they mine more gold every single day. I don't know if you watch Gold Rush or whatever on TV. I love that show. These guys are, digging it out of the sand and pulling it out of the ground. And so that's adding to the supply. Whereas in Bitcoin, it's like a rare Pokemon. Like there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. And we've never had an asset that's completely finite before. I mean, even if it's like, gold, precious metals, dollars, like they keep printing more dollars. They keep finding more gold. They're not going to find more Bitcoin. It's programmed into a computer that there will only ever be 21 million. So I think that's the most important piece about it is it's the only currency that's ever been created in our lifetimes. It's the greatest performing asset in the history of time in only a 12-year period. But we're still early on in this experiment, so we'll see how it all works out, but it's been going unbelievably well. But never before has there been an asset that is completely finite that we've been able to chart. So the rules of supply and demand have never played out like this, and it's pretty exciting.
And just we're sharing a mic here, and the interesting thing is there's already millionaires and billionaires from Bitcoin. So we're going to explain to you, and I know it's a lot. You want to learn this. This is something. This is something you want to learn. So not just watching these videos, and we're going to have Craig back, but you want to watch a lot. Name some of the people that have taken advantage of Bitcoin. If you're watching this on Facebook or social media, the real owners of Facebook, that invented Facebook, and then Mark Zuckerberg, right? They're Bitcoin billionaires, right? And so there's a lot of, this isn't like it might happen. It's already happened. There are multi-millionaires in Bitcoin. And so I'm going to give it back to Craig to explain more, but also how you can take advantage of this and how you can start making money on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency.
Yeah, so it's a good question. I would say there's definitely some famous names in the space. Like I'm fortunate enough to be really good friends with Charlie Shrem. Shout out Charlie if you see this. One of the nicest guys ever, and created one of the first Bitcoin exchanges where you could trade, you could send your money to go buy Bitcoin. You could exchange your US dollars to get Bitcoin. And so definitely like he's a total pioneer in the space. But, and then the Winklevoss twins as well, who, they used to work together back in the day. They own the second largest exchange in the United States. They're some of the earliest Bitcoin adopters. And there's a whole crew of guys, between Brock Pierce, Nick Spano, some of these guys that are legends in the space. And so I kind of looked at it. I remember when I heard about 3D printing, right? And I thought it was going to be big. And I still think it will be big. But they were like, so how do you get involved in 3D printing? Well, you could buy a 3D printer or you could buy like the software that makes it run. Or you could invest in like the raw materials that they put into the printer. So there's like different spaces around that ecosystem, if that makes sense. Here, you can buy Bitcoin, which is, probably the easiest and best way to do it at this point. Or you could be involved in a Bitcoin type of business, whether it's a mining business or, which we'll get into that as well. Or like Charlie did, he was with a Bitcoin exchange. So he had a business that dealt with Bitcoin. So there's other ways that you can get involved in the ecosystem rather than just buying the asset. I think we're seeing that pop up. You see like Brian Armstrong, you probably heard of Coinbase. They'll be going public here soon, it looks like. And they're an exchange where you put in your dollars, link it to your bank account, and then you can buy different cryptocurrencies with it. So they were able to not only do they hold a lot of Bitcoin, but they were able to capitalize by creating a place that people could go and exchange their money. So there's a lot of different ways to get involved. I always tell people err on the side of caution. I think there's a lot of, I'll put it this way. Whenever there's this big of a gap between like the experts and the people who know what's going on, and then those who don't know what's going on, which is like the masses, whenever the gap is like as big as it is right now, it leaves room for two things. And one is education, which is what we're doing right here and, trying to help you guys understand. But two is scams. And so be very, very careful. People out there, just pretend everyone is out there trying to take your Bitcoin from you. Because that's really, in a way, it's like what a lot of people are doing. They believe that this is going to be such a valuable asset. So do your research, do your due diligence. At the same time, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Neither is my boy here. We're just talking about some made up currency and kind of telling you what we do or what I do, to get involved in the space. But I made some mistakes early on. I put money in different places. Like I was trying to mine. I was trying to do like some different trading stuff, which I wasn't ready to do. I really needed to learn to become a good trader. And just trying to invest in all these different projects. And when really, I should have stuck with the big boy. I should have stuck with Bitcoin, and it outperformed all the other stuff. So had I just bought and held this asset, I would have performed way better than I did by spreading myself thin and trying to chase every next thing that happened. But that's just kind of the learning curve there. So I tell people just dip your toe in the water. The easiest way to get involved is to just start buying some Bitcoin. I don't care if it's $10. I don't care if it's $100. Get in the game because you can't win from the sidelines.
Let's talk about, and by the way, okay, so I got to slow it down. Okay. So he said Charlie Shrem, not Charlie Sheen. Okay. I just want to make sure.
He gets confused at restaurants with the.
He makes resumes. Charlie Shrem. He's big time. I mean, you can watch him on Netflix, Banking with Bitcoin. Charlie, shout out. Yeah. He's the most famous name in Bitcoin.
He's
really,
the star of the book Bitcoin Millionaires by Ben Mesrick. He's on 60 Minutes talking about Bitcoin. He's the guy.
Yeah. So
I've learned a lot from him.
So for me, I got to dumb it down. Okay. So I got to come back. Okay. Because I know he wants to bring the fire. He wants to bring the heat. So for the people that are saying, I still don't even know what you're talking about. I'm going to come back. Okay. This is important. Okay. And thank you for holding on here. Here's what I want to tell you. Why Bitcoin? Why do I believe it's such the biggest invention in the history of my lifetime? I believe Bitcoin is bigger than the internet. Now I want Craig to answer why the importance is, why it's so great, because there are people that don't have money. Billions of people in this world do not have access to a bank and they don't have money. But if they have a phone, that's all they need. Yep. Can you talk a little bit about this? Is one of the reasons why it's so attractive, because if you're poor and you're in a third world country and you have a phone, you can make money, you can get paid.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of what Bitcoin is like, in the United States, we're very spoiled. We have great access to online banking. Like you probably have an online bank account on your phone, whether it's Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, whatever. We have really good banking experiences for the most part. They don't have that in a lot of countries. Like in the Philippines, I think something like 100 million people in the country, only 6 million of them have debit cards or a bank account. So that's 95 million people roughly that don't have access to banking, but 60 million of them have smartphones. So there's people that have never been a part or been able to participate in the world economy before that now have one of these in their hand, and now they can play in the game. So it really changes things and opens up the world to what used to be 2 billion people to really open it up to like 6 billion people, because there's so many people that have a smartphone now. And so that's part of why I love Bitcoin so much, is at the end of the day, especially in the United States, the government can take your kids, they can take your home, they can take your car, they can take your money, they can take whatever you have. But if you remember your Bitcoin password, it's unconfiscatable. They can't take your Bitcoin. And so it can't be stopped. If it could have been, it already would have been, because it's an actual potential threat to the US dollar. Will it ever take over the US dollar? I don't know. Is it possible? Yes, absolutely. Probable? I don't know. We'll see. But there's so many things, so many problems that Bitcoin solves. And I think the biggest one that affects people right now is people that are holding on to cash. Do what you must, but they're printing so much money in the United States right now. I mean, 78% of all dollars have been created within the last 12 years in the United States. Think about that. 78% of the total supply of dollars ever.
That's not good.
That means that the dollars that you're holding are worth way less than they were 12 years ago. And there's no sign of that stopping in the near future. They got interest rates set at 0. They got their foot on the gas, ready to print more money, which just simply makes what you have in cash worth less than it was. And so I think people are waking up to that. That's why they turn to assets like gold and silver. But now, they're seeing the performance of Bitcoin and some of these cryptocurrencies, and they want some exposure to that. And I think that's why it's even becoming smart for businesses now that we're building some of these on-ramps. So that's why you see, yesterday, or depending on when you guys see this, Elon Musk, maybe arguably the most influential entrepreneur of our time, probably him and Jeff Bezos, bought $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. So he took 7.7% of his company's cash and bought Bitcoin. Like that is an unbelievable sign. That guy is making a smart strategic business decision to take some of the cash that his company holds to move it over into Bitcoin because he thinks it will outperform, and it's a smart strategic business plan for his company.
And if you think about that, Craig, which is interesting, it's like, okay, so Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, two richest people in the world. They're the two richest people. I think Elon Musk is worth 197 billion, and Jeff Bezos is second at 182 billion. It changes by the minute. And he's basically telling you, at home and all the business owners basically to invest and buy Bitcoin and learn about Bitcoin. And one thing I'll tell you about Elon Musk, you know, he comes up, he may sound stupid, but he's always right. He's always right, right?
Elon.
Bet on Elon. And so that alone is a worthwhile is why should I pay attention to Bitcoin? So let's further the discussion on Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think it's so important because he's so looked up to by so many entrepreneurs. I mean, Troy, you don't even have a Tesla. He drives a Lexus, but wears a Tesla hat. That's how much he loves Elon Musk and Tesla in the brand. He's definitely, I'm getting one too. So that's how influential Elon Musk is. Like, he's been on the Joe Rogan podcast twice, and there's some of the most watched podcasts in the history of the world, because I think, 50 years ago, it wasn't that cool to be an entrepreneur. Today, it's sexy, right? To be an entrepreneur. So who do you follow as an entrepreneur? When you want to follow the richest and most successful guy in the world. So that's what people are doing. So he just told the whole world, like, hey, wake up and start diversifying and putting some of you, like, pay attention to this asset class. And so he can't take that back, and so we're officially moving forward. That's like the biggest endorsement that Bitcoin probably could have ever gotten, bigger than Warren Buffett, bigger than probably anybody that I can think of, for a forward thinking, like, tech CEO to be mentioning this, that everybody looks up to, is just tremendous. So he's literally pumping our bags. They say, we said that in the crypto world, he's pumping our bags because we're already holding Bitcoin and he's out there promoting it. And again, because there's only so many of these things around, it's like beachfront property in Malibu. There's only so many beach houses you can get on the shore in Malibu. After they're gone, So unless you want to pay way overpriced for what it is, that's what we got here. And so there's only so many Bitcoins. So it's kind of, like I said, a rare Pokemon or something like that. We're trying to catch them all before they're gone.
Okay, so hold with me, guys. Okay, whether you agree or disagree. I think one of the things is I've done retirement planning since 2002. And I was so discouraged on so many financial planners that refused to learn. Now they're all calling me up and saying, I got to learn about Bitcoin. I got to learn. Yeah, because your clients are going somewhere else because you don't have the answers. But if you look at the government, if you look at the money channel, right? If you look at a lot of these, even a couple of years ago, it's been a little bit better recently because of people like Elon Musk. But why is it that maybe the government didn't want us to look at Bitcoin? Okay. Why do you think the government wanted, and why do you think shows like the Money Channel were initially talking down on Bitcoin, but now they're like, oh my gosh, I can't. They were literally trying to, I feel like, hide it from our society. They didn't want us to know about Bitcoin. Do you agree, or what?
I do. Yeah. I think it's a legitimate threat to the system. It's, banks don't want Bitcoin, just like taxis didn't want Uber, just like hotels don't want Airbnb. Like, we're disrupting money. I say we is because, I'm part of the network, so are you. So, the incumbent never likes
disruptor. I'm a disruptor.
You're a disruptor. Is a big disruptor. So, the incumbent never likes the up and comer with technology that's changing. And we've seen technology change the world from brick and mortar stores for what Amazon did to them and some of the examples I just gave. But we've never seen really technology enter money like this. And what's bigger than the space of money? Like nothing, So we're now digitizing money. We're bringing technology to money in a way that's never been seen before. And it's kind of redefining what money is. What is an exchange value? What is that? I don't care if you're trading goats for marbles. If somebody's willing to do it, the amount's right, like you can do it. So people are starting to understand, especially, I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, whatever you believe, has nothing to do with this. But it does matter about the monetary policy in the United States. And if like, people are starting to lose faith in that system. And as you lose faith in the system that backs your currency, being the US dollar, you start to look at other avenues and other mediums of exchange or other stores of value, which is why people are really starting to look at this. And then I think part two is it's performed so well that you can't deny this price when it's right in front of you, that the asset is, gone from fractions of a penny to $45,000, like per coin. People are like, what? It's a really wild story. So I think the price and the way it's increased and the volatility make it, very enticing for people to look at. But it's gotten to the point now that we've been through probably 5 boom bust cycles, they call it, where it's run up, crash back down, run up, crash back down, run up, crash back down. And we're doing it again. And each time it creates a higher high, it keeps going higher. And, now it's a little bit different. In the past, last time when this happened in 2017, Bitcoin went from 1,000 to 20,000 relatively quickly. And people were like, they were losing their mind. And a lot of people bought at the top. But what happened then is everyone was downloading Coinbase. I remember over Thanksgiving, every person at the table was talking about what is Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then they kind of went quiet as things crashed and we went into a bear market where it was going down for a couple of years. So people kind of do the opposite of what they're supposed to when it's really exciting, and they should maybe be looking to, diversify or take profits, that they're buying. So they buy at the wrong times. Whereas when no one's paying attention to it, that's when you really want to start accumulating and paying attention and studying and learning and buying. So, we've seen these cycles play out before, but this time we have the ramps. It's not like Craig buying Bitcoin. It's not Troy buying Bitcoin this time. It's Elon Musk and its companies, and it's the 19 trillion
Amazon
plus dollars.
Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's the 19 plus trillion dollars that are sitting in 401ks, that are sitting in pension funds, that they're now asking their money managers and their financial planners, how do I get exposure to Bitcoin in this asset class? That money, even if it's 1% of it, starting to come over into the space, and the on-ramps to allow that are happening right now, it's going to be huge. Like I said, there's only so many of these things. And as this money flows in and the demand increases, the supply decreases. If anything stays the same over time, it's like the perfect storm for an investor, a speculative investor that's looking to, grow their portfolio and really get some diversification.
And I think the one thing is, as something is attractive and it's great, growing with attention, the issue is you have to have caution, because there's a lot of scams out there as well. And so I think which is sad, because I think a confused mind does nothing. So I absolutely, I'm going to ask Craig, where do you recommend people go to learn? I mean, we're going to have more of Craig. We're going to look, this is so incredible. Like, literally, I think Boston is one of the best sports cities. It's title town with the Patriots, the Celtics. I mean, come on.
It used to be the Patriots.
Used to be the Patriots. That's Tampa. Now it's going to be Tampa now, unfortunately, for the Patriots. But they had a sports talk radio. He says once a week they're going to talk about Bitcoin. One of the most, because that's how much people want to learn about cryptocurrency. So my question to you is that, YouTube, where would you send people? Besides, we're going to have you back, and I'm going to tell people where to find you so they can get more information. Where would you send people to learn more about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and the blockchain and all that?
Yeah, good question. So I always tell people, like, if you don't know anything about it, start with banking on Bitcoin on Amazon Prime. So that's my buddy Charlie. It's about his story. And it's kind of cool because this can get very confusing, but they break it down visually. They go through the story of how it came to be, while showing the price chart over time. And you kind of get some different minds, all giving you a different perspective of what's going on. You might not understand one guy, but you might relate to the other one, the way he puts it. So I think that's a good starting point. And I'm just probably biased because I love Charlie. But shout out Charlie. But I love that. I've watched it probably 10 times, and I learn something every time I watch it. And so you get to see some of the pioneers in the space. So that's great. Step two would be, get on an exchange, whether it's, some of the old Bitcoiners don't like this, but whether it's Gemini or whether it's Coinbase or whatever, Binance US, if you're in, one of the US states that allows it, and just dip your toe in the water. I don't care if you put $100 in and spread it out or start buying a little bit, whatever, just get into the game a little bit, because then you'll learn what an exchange is. Then you'll learn how to, transact your dollars for crypto. Then you'll kind of learn what a wallet is. You'll learn the process to go through this stuff to start moving into the new financial system. Because I think it's pretty clear, finally, like, people know, like, we're not going back. Like, it's like the internet, like, we're not going backwards. Like, and saying too late is to get involved in Bitcoin is like saying it's too late to get involved in the internet, or that it's too late to get involved in cell phones. Like, these are going to be ubiquitous in everyday part of our lives. And this technology is something that you want to learn. I don't care whether it's now or later, you're going to be forced to learn some of this stuff. It's just that the opportunity is now, well, it's a little harder to figure out. When it's that easy to figure out, that's when the opportunity is gone, and we'll have to look for something else. But when you have something that's the greatest asset in the history of time, I mean, the performing asset in the history of time, it's something to pay attention to. Like, if somebody said that to me, my ears would perk up and be like, I need to know about this at least. So I'm a big fan. Also, when I got started, I paid for education. I did. I was lost in YouTube videos. I didn't know who to trust. There's some really good names and people that you can follow, but paying for education shaved years off my trading learning curve, and allowed me to save a lot of lost money that I would have had. When you first get into trading, which is a kind of a separate conversation, I mean, a lot of people like that. If you're a trader, you don't care really if the asset's going up or down. You just want it to be moving so you can, like, buy and sell and buy and sell. And so Bitcoin does a lot of this. It's very volatile, as they say. So it's kind of a trader's dream if you know what you're doing. But if you don't know what you're doing, it can be very, very emotional. I mean, I had way more money than I could afford to lose in the space. I had many, many sleepless nights. I made such emotional trades. I would buy at the top because I was so afraid I was going to miss out. Then it would crash and I'd freak out and sell. and have half as much as I should have had. I did everything wrong. I can't wait to write the book about how not to do this. But that is like really how you get started. So paying for education is great. You know, you don't need to go to college for this. You can learn online. You can learn through a bunch of different systems and platforms, and you can learn from people that have already done it. You can learn from a video like this. Maybe this sparks your interest enough to go take the next step and set up an exchange account and start buying whatever it is, you know? So I think paying for education totally makes sense, especially when we're talking about money, you know, in a space that's this big, that could potentially be life-changing if you learn a few of these skills. And then get around the right people in the space, you know, get around people who know more than you, follow their content, go to a conference if we ever have conferences ever again in the world, and, you know, to start to immerse yourself in the space. That's one thing that I think we probably share in common. When we get into something, we get obsessed. And so I did, and it worked out for the better because, you know, I knew it was going to be something huge, but I knew that I needed to get around people that were way smarter than I was.
All right. Yeah. And so we know, you know, I don't know how much we want to get into this here, but you know, I think it's just really important I always say success leaves clues, and that investment in knowledge pays the highest interest. Okay. An investment in knowledge pays the highest interest. So it's worth investing and making sure that because what's unfortunate is, you know, the amount of text messages I'm getting, I'm like, oh, I wonder if my mom is getting text messages on different scams and, oh, you got a free subscription to Netflix. I'm like, no, I don't click on it. But so there is a lot of scams out there. And so what Craig and I want to do, it's so funny because I would send Craig these things. Well, what do you think about this? What do you think? Scam. And our friends would join it, right? Our friends would join certain cryptocurrency and Bitcoin scams. And he was right on every one of them. Like every one of them, they shut down, they lost money. And so I don't want to scare you into doing nothing. Okay. Yeah. I don't want to scare you guys. I don't want to scare you because you have to take advantage of this, but you got to make sure you're going to this, like in anything in life, you got to find out who you can trust and you got to learn about it, because I want to caution people too. I don't want you to get scammed, because I do know some people that lost money. And that's why I think Craig's giving good advice on if you have to pay for education, but learn what you can. And if you got to reach out to someone, you know, success leaves clues. Find someone that's made some money maybe in Bitcoin, or, you know, what I'd say is, Craig, where can they find you? I mean, where can they find you as far as learning more about information? Charlie Shrem I've had a chance to eat lobster with him in Maine, and I'm good friends with him now, right? So we love Charlie and banking with Bitcoin.
Sarasota and the Prince of Portland together at last.
But Charlie's the man. But where else can they find you? You know?
Yeah. So just to kind of touch on the point that you just brought up real quick, like it's good. Be careful out there right now. When the price is up, it's scam season, and that's in anything. That's, you know, in any kind of investing. I don't know if you've seen what's going on TV with AMC and GameStop and Robinhood and what's happening with all these accounts. The average person is getting hurt. They don't know what they're doing. So learn what you're doing, you know, before you really dive in. Sometimes the best way to learn is just get started with it, you know, and start to immerse yourself in that space. But there's some things to be careful of. If anyone's promising you guaranteed returns in their program, run. If you need a VPN in the United States and it's not legal to do in the United States, you probably want to run. You know, if they don't have transparency, or you don't know where the home office of a place is, or they're not publicly traded, you probably want to give it a look. You know, the people are trying to get you at a deeper level to like just not buy the asset and hand over your money. And so
if you're sending your money to another country,
yeah, if you don't control your own funds, if you don't control your own keys, if you're sending it to somebody else, hoping that they kick it back to you at whatever it is, you probably want to give it a second look. Think about it. I know a lot of people, including myself, that have parted with their Bitcoin because they made dumb decisions. I just went through it 5-6 years ago. So we were making so much money in 2015-16. We were throwing Bitcoin at stuff, you know, just to test it, to make sure it was a scam so we could tell people not to do it. And so, you know, we've already been through it. So that's why when the time like 2017 came around, when like BitConnect, if you don't know what that is, I'm sure you'll see the documentary one day, but it was just a huge Ponzi scheme, and people got really, 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 really hurt. And it was devastating. I begged people not to do it. And sometimes, you know, that's just how you learn. You have to learn, but you know, don't learn that hard way. Learn from the right people. And then, you know, you guys can find me, Crypto Craig, Crypto Craig 247 on Instagram, Craig Tortolani on Facebook, and I'll have some YouTube stuff coming out soon too, as well. And we'll be creating a bunch of content, but I've kind of made it my mission, and like, it's a passion of mine to help people with this stuff and to help them learn. And obviously we don't have enough time to help every single person individually. And it's often a sensitive topic when you're talking about people's finances and telling them what to invest in and all this stuff, but it is a passion. And so I'm grateful that I have some automation in my life trading. I'm grateful that I have, a place that I can send people to get educated, that I know people like Charlie, that I can point them to a documentary that they can learn about some really good stuff. And so, nobody's bugging me. If you guys have any questions, reach out, and whatever I can do to help, I will. And then this guy will as well. He's learning a bunch quick. And, it was pretty funny. I remember when we were talking about Bitcoin, he's like, "Oh, so how much do we need to put in? How much money do we need?" I was like, "Whoa, go easy. Let's put together a plan, and then we'll look at it." So although he probably would have made more if we just listened to him, but don't FOMO, don't freak out. If anything, you're too early to the space because there's still things that are getting worked out. So you're not too late to the game. Just get involved and, let some people that know more than you help you. And then you'll be able to pass it on and help others. So.
And put something, you expand your risk, right? Put something in it. I was just like, let's go. Let's put all this in it. And I probably would have been right. But, you can't be emotional. You got to be careful, right? But I would say, put something into Bitcoin. Elon Musk just made a huge statement, putting 1.5 billion, Tesla, 1.5 billion into Bitcoin. So, that's insane. He loves it. And that guy's smart. I mean,
knew it was coming. I just didn't know it was coming yet.
I mean, I got 2 Tesla hats in back of the camera here, and I should have wore one. And they're like, "You don't even own a Tesla." And I go, "Yeah, but I love Elon. He's smart. I trust. I think this guy makes great business decisions." And then what happens? Bitcoin, So, all right. In closing, last remarks. I want to thank Craig. We're going to be doing some lives occasionally. I would absolutely. If you have some questions, definitely ask him some questions. This is going to be on YouTube, Time with Troy. He'll respond to some comments and help you out in any way. I mean, Craig is really getting sought after and very, very busy. But ask some questions. We'll try to get back to you in any way we can. And the one thing I wanted to close on, because you mentioned something, is because people are asking, and you got to be careful. We tell people, we're not financial advisors. I do have a retirement planning background, but it's different than a financial advisor. Okay. And I'm actually proud I'm not a financial advisor. I'd be embarrassed, to be honest with you. Sorry to all my friends who are financial advisors. I'm going to help educate you guys. Okay. I'm going to help you, my friends out there. But, I like the fact that we do have some good places to send people for content or automation. And there are things that, you talk about publicly traded companies and automation. And I think that's a place to start as well. And why do you like automation? And we'll close it out right here, Craig.
Yeah. So as a trader, Bitcoin market is 24/7. If you're trading the stock market, at least it closes on Friday. You can take the weekend off. It stops at, 9:30 to 4 East Coast time. So you get to live a somewhat normal life. In Bitcoin, it's 24/7. So, it's going around the world and you can miss a lot of stuff. So I love having a piece of my portfolio that's automated that allows me to sleep and allows me to do other things, and I can still grow my position. So if you find good technologies that you believe in, that have some good backing to them, they really do work. I mean, if you're not using some automation in your life, then you're probably working against it. And so that makes trading even harder. I mean, that's how Wall Street trades. They use high frequency trading algorithms to beat the humans. Like, what do you want to be? You think my computer needs, sleep and food? No, it's going to beat the human most of the times. That's where we're going. So if automation is not working for you, it's probably working against you. And that's something I always tell people, but, be careful, do your due diligence, do your research. And I guess final, closing remarks, I would just tell you guys that I truly believe Bitcoin to be, the biggest invention of my lifetime and maybe of, a generation. I think it's going to free a lot of people financially. I think it's going to shift, a lot of the way that we view the world, or the way that people view money. I think it's going to bring a whole younger crowd into investing. Even the head of I forget what his name is, Giancarlo, was the head of the federal chairman, something, I don't know, whatever he is. But his son, he was like, I'm the chairman of the Federal Reserve, and my kids have never asked me about a stock or anything, but they want Bitcoin, so he was like, wow, I'm thinking about this. I've been doing this for forever and they've never cared. But now that there's Bitcoin and something cool that they're excited about, that's getting them into the financial system. Like, I got involved in Bitcoin, then learned how to trade. And then I went and took it to the stock market and killed it, So I was able to take those skills that I learned from my initial way into the market. And now I studied, became obsessed, and learned a bunch of it. So I think it's a good entryway for new people to come into the financial markets. I mean, can't even tell you how many people don't have a retirement fund or don't have I learned about 401ks and stuff through Bitcoin. So it got me into the space to learn a ton. And I think you guys should probably do the same. This is not taught in schools, and it's something that you definitely want to know because it can set you apart. These little decisions to compound and to make the right investments over time, your future self will thank you. So don't sleep on it. And don't think that Bitcoin's too expensive. You can buy a little piece of a Bitcoin, $100 worth of Bitcoin. All right. So you don't think you missed it. You're too late to the game. If anything, you're too early. So welcome, and we'll help you in any way we can.
But don't wait too long. Get some Bitcoin right away and learn about it. So because this is something that's really, really hot. And according to Google Trends, just so you close on this, Google Trends, you look at things in the financial sector, and I agree. Forex is hot. Stocks are even hotter, Robinhood and all that, but there's nothing hotter. Nothing on Google Trends is hotter right now than cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. It's where people are wanting to learn. So don't wait too long. Just get your information as quick as possible. Thanks for tuning in. And we're going to go live on Facebook in just a minute. So God bless you all. Bye-bye.